So let's say you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Alright, well, I'm sorry about that. We started about 20 minutes late because I apparently don't have a clock or I'm an idiot or something. I don't know. Make up your own story.
What if it's some amalgamation of the two?
Yeah, I'm a dummy who
Clockless
doesn't have
moron?
a... Yep, clockless moron. Hey, you know what? I like that one. But,
There you go.
we are here with a new video because, like I said last with Erika, I went and finished the video we were doing on my own, and basically it was just preaching for the rest of the video. So, yeah, I didn't want to do that. So I just said, no, executive decision, we're going to start a new Eric Hovind thing. This is a 6-part seminar, and we're starting with part 2 because part 1 was just why is creationism important for a Christian? And I don't care what the answer to that is. So... I don't. It's the truth. So
I'm already hyped for this one. It's got big late 2000s like Bible camp.
Oh yeah.
Vibe.
I think
graphics. I'm excited.
This is probably from like 2007 or 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Vacation Bible School. That's the one I was thinking.
Oh, VBS.
I meant VBS.
Man, yeah, you gotta love that. Wow, that takes me back a bit. But anyway,
Yeah.
we do have a drinking game we play for this. So, first of all, we play whenever the Hovind in question gets something unironically correct without just quoting it. And also, we drink whenever the various kaiju come around, like just happened. And
we love to hear from the kaiju. I'm actually drinking this time. I don't drink all of the times, but today I am drinking. So I'm very excited for today.
Wait a minute. You're not supposed to, like, lift the veil, the illusion. You're supposed to be telling everyone that you're drinking every single time.
Well, what I actually meant is that normally I drink, like, beer, but this time I'm just drinking Everclear.
Oh, right. Okay, there you go. Just straight Everclear. Good. I like that.
Oh, yeah. That's to be very clear, yes, that is what I meant.
Okay, yeah. Well, be safe. Let's see. We also drink whenever it's just so stupid that we kind of have to, which is pretty often. And also, Eric Hovind likes to tell jokes that just do not land, and we drink for those, and that usually happens every episode.
Multiple times.
Am I forgetting any?
We could, so I thought of this, actually at the end of the last one. I think it would be a fun addition, but it might be a dangerous one, especially for this seminar in particular, but having a hip with the kids, drink whenever it tries to be with the kids.
I might
That's like a little rough though.
Think about that, but my goodness, that would be like every single line because basically Eric Hovind is sort of the embodiment of the hello fellow kids meme.
Yeah, the how do you do?
Yeah, how do you do fellow kids? Yeah, it's just like I can just picture him with the music band t-shirt on.
Oh yeah, dude. This whole graphic that's on the screen right now just screams, I hear the kids are into the comics these days.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to put an executive veto on that one just so I don't die.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. That's why I was thinking to myself, for the last one, maybe it would have been a bit more appropriate because at least he was speaking with an adult. But since this one is for youngsters, or like it feels like it's at least meant to include them,
yeah.
That feels like you might as well just mainline it.
At that point, yeah, basically. Well, let's see what we get into, and we're gonna not do that particular one, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, sick.
Sphincter of Doom says Eric comes into frame doing a flip kick on his skateboard. Oh my goodness, that would be perfect.
Oh man, that would actually be unironically cool. Sorry if you guys hear squeaking. I am in the room with dogs, so I might mute myself when they're being.
That's okay. Well, let's hit play with this. There he is, the man himself.
Thank you, guys. Welcome back to Beginning.
I actually turn that down slightly. It's a little loud for me.
How old is it? The Earth,
That's
that
a
is.
little
This
bit
little
better.
thing you're sitting on right now, the little ball of dirt that's going around the sun. How long has it been cruising around the sun? That's what we're here to talk about today. Now, there's quite a variety of opinions on how old the Earth is. I mean, you look in the
Wait, is
textbooks,
there?
and we learned this last time
I
in session
would
one.
say that they're certainly not weighted the same.
Yeah, I guess you could ask a whole bunch of people who know nothing about Earth science how old the Earth is, and they would all give you different answers. But pretty much everyone who actually knows anything about the topic, I'll pretty much agree it's about 4.5 billion, give or take a couple 100 million years here or there.
Yeah, the thing with weighting them too is that you just meet one last Thursdayist and you've got a real problem on your hands data-wise.
You know, maybe they're out there. It's usually given as a joke position, but you know, I have a certain fondness for last Thursdayism.
I'm a big fan. I think that it takes real guts to be like, you know what, everything's fake and it just looks the way it does because that's part of the joke.
It really is all fake news.
It's all fake news.
Okay. No, I mean, I like it. All right, well, maybe we'll hear from some last Thursdayists who have been last Thursdayists for their entire lives.
Yeah,
Which
all
would
7
be-
days.
Well, but they have memories of being a last Thursdayist for years, which is confusing.
True. Yes.
But that's just
This
all
is
part of the joke.
Schrodinger's lifetime.
Scott Dew asks, when did we arrive at 4.5 billion years ago for the Earth? You know, I'm actually not sure exactly how long it's been. That's been a pretty well-established thing. But I know that it's been closing in on that figure for decades now. Basically, as soon as we could radiometrically test things like asteroids and stuff like that, it's been pretty clear that that's about how old the Earth is, primarily because being made of essentially the same stuff as asteroids, Earth probably kind of coagulated about the same time they did.
Yeah, so if memory serves too, up until like that point when asteroids started to be radiometrically dated, it was pretty solidly seated at 3.8 for a while because it was just like dating the oldest rocks on Earth, which tended to be those rocks, I think from Greenland. I think that's where we find them. They're like still, you know, what would it be, like Archean, like really early Archean?
There's some Archean rocks in Australia too, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's really hard to find. Or no, wait, it's Hadean. That's what you're looking for. It's Hadean.
Well, is it Hadean for 3.8? Is that not early Archean?
That might be early Archean. I'm just trying to think about the earliest period.
Hold on. I'm gonna look it up. We've got Google on our side.
All right, I'm gonna hit play though while we go and do that.
Yes, please do.
Evolution teaches us that the Earth formed about 4.6 billion years ago.
And I'm going to take a drink because evolution has nothing to say about how old the Earth is. You're thinking of geology.
Yes, I will drink for that as well. Okay, so the Hadean ended 4 million years ago, and the Archean kicked off at about, yeah, I guess I'm a last Thursdayist now too. 4 billion years ago is when the Hadean ended, began 4.5 to 4.8, and then the Archean started at like 3.99, whatever.
Fair enough. Well, there we go.
To Google.
There we go.
Yeah. But I did drink for that because I do love this. This is very clearly too not like the Hovind schism hasn't occurred yet, so he's still using like the 7 definitions of evolution, the 7 types.
This is still basically just a Ken Hovind speech with a younger face and worse comedic timing, possibly.
Oh yeah, the de-aged Hovind is what we're looking at. Yeah, you can say a lot about Kent, but Kent is definitely funnier than Eric is for both ironic and unironic jokes.
Yeah, I think Kent is funnier. I also think he's actually, at least at his prime, he was more charismatic than Eric was at his prime. But you know what, though? Eric's better looking. I'll give him that.
No, that's true, but Eric's not as memeable. That's the bummer about Eric.
He's also been quiet lately. I went to his website, or his YouTube channel, and there's just nothing there. It's so boring.
I think he was recently on... Well, actually, I don't know that he was on this. The Evolution Revisited seminar that all those creationists did, they like got the Justice League together.
I'm pretty sure he was. And Kent,
so that would have been
pretty sure was not.
Yeah, they don't invite Kent to the...
Apparently,
apparently
Kent
girls of the creationism world.
Apparently, Kent will still talk to Ray Comfort privately every once in a while, but you don't hear anything about it like publicly. Oh, and for $5, Sphincter of Doom says, before Claire Patterson's work, it was thought to be about 3.3 billion, but his paper in 1956 illustrated an age of about 4.55 billion. There you go.
There it is.
Thank you, and thank you for the donation to the channel. We always appreciate that.
Yeah, We do like that sphincter of doom. Yeah, I like to think of the creationists as all going, like all the big head honchos, as like going to like a single high school, and the ones who get bullied all the time are like Walt Brown. What's his name? The dude who does what's his name? He does those really garbage dinosaur deals. You know what I'm talking about?
Buddy Davis?
No, not Buddy Davis. It's the one he always dresses up like a curio cabinet, runner. Like he dresses like an explorer from like the 1800s.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
oh man, I can't remember his name, but he actually did a talk recently on AIG's YouTube channel that contradicted a previous talk by David Menton.
Dang it, what is that guy's name? Yeah, Menton, did it have to do with birds being dinosaurs?
Yep, because Menton really hates that. Menton was like, oh, Velociraptor, totally a dinosaur. And then this guy was like, just a dinosaur. And Menton's like, it's a bird. Dinosaur. No, AIG, figure this out. But
yeah, we love the wishy-washiness of that whole issue.
Yeah, it's so clear whether it's a dinosaur or a bird in every case. Well, except you guys can't agree on which ones are which, so...
Ian Juby, that's it.
Ian Juby, that is. Oh my goodness, Ian Juby.
Yeah.
Man.
Ian Juby, Walt Brown, and Kent Hovind are the ones that get bullied by all the other mean girl creationists.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Kent Hovind is the one who, like, at first he was sitting at the cool table, but then, like, I don't know, he, like, peed his pants in class or something, and now he's been ostracized. No one wants to talk to him anymore.
He's the weird kid now, officially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Is that true? Is the Earth 4.6 billion years old?
It's close enough that I wouldn't
Maybe the Earth is only a few thousand years old.
Yes, and maybe I'm only 2 days old, and maybe the distance from my house to Alaska is only 20 yards. All of these things are things you can say, but they're not reasonable.
Yeah, the funny thing about words is you can string them together to form any sentence you want them to, but it has no bearing on whether or not that sentence is correct.
Yeah, and this one is, I mean, I guess you could say maybe, so technically it's not incorrect, because maybe doesn't really make a fact claim, but yeah, no, that's not a realistic possibility.
Yeah, you're not gonna want to reject the null on that one.
There are trees that are older than Eric Hovind thinks the universe is old. I mean...
Oh my god, I know. That one, yeah, and coral reef atolls. Like,
most coral reefs are older than the universe is, according to Eric Hovind.
Yeah, but they were just floating around in the ether, minding their own business, and then God was like, "Oh wait, damn!
I should make a planet for all these coral."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're really efficient coral. They're great at turning the vacuum of nothingness into energy.
Not billions of years old. You're going, wait a minute, Eric. The Earth only a few thousand years old. That doesn't even make any sense.
That is what I said. You know what? Yeah, he got that right. I'm taking a drink because Eric Hovind got it right.
Yeah, I'll drink for that.
Good job, Eric. That's exactly what I said. Well, I mean, basically.
We know the Earth is a lot older than a few thousand years old because, hey, dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. They died 65 million years ago.
That is not why we know the Earth is millions of years old, but it is true. I don't know what I'm doing with that. I don't think it's worth a drink.
I really like that. Like, someone comes up and they're like, how old do you think the Earth is? And I'm like, oh yeah, I think it's probably like about 4.8 billion years old. And they're like, huh, you base that on the dinosaurs, huh? And I'm like, I'm just like astrally projecting from my body just because of how absurd it is.
Oh, man.
The dinosaurs are what convinced everyone.
Also, I want to point out, I think this next thing that's going to come up on here is not going to be a dinosaur.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And what about
I was wrong. I thought it was going to be a Dimetrodon. It turns out it was a Spinosaurus, but it was like a 1996 Spinosaurus. But either way, at least it was a dinosaur.
Yeah, true. We do have to give them credit for that.
You know what? I'll take a drink for not putting... Wait, after the montage finishes, I'll take a drink. Because if Dimetrodon does show up in here, I might take a drink for how stupid it is.
Yeah, please. That does seem right up their alley. For the Hovinds and for creationists, if it shows up in one of those dinosaur tubes that you can buy from the dollar store, it counts as a dinosaur.
Well, actually, AIG is actually reasonably good at not including, like, synapsids and things in with as dinosaurs. They usually separate them off as, like, a different group of creatures. They actually even have a couple They have a couple of things talking about, like, the synapsid animals. Yeah, well, not kind, because they have it split into a bunch of different ones. Like, I think they have like 2 or 3 different kinds of Dicynodonts, and like at least I think they have Gorgonopsids as their own kind or something like that.
Yeah, you know, the real reason that I don't accept Noah's Ark and don't believe in it is because I'm just really bitter that the Gorgonopsids and our blessed Kingoria didn't make it out like after in the post-flood world. I'm really bitter about all that, and so that's why I reject it.
And let's not forget all the Dinocephalians like Estimenosuchus.
Oh my god.
Rest in peace, Estimenosuchus. Rest in peace.
And our sweet boy Cotelorhynchus, little head boy.
We cannot cry over our lost synapsid friends. We got to push on.
Fingers crossed for Permian Park someday.
Yes, I would watch that movie.
Radiometric dating proves the Earth is...
All right, well then, I'm going to take a drink for you not getting into Metrodon stuck in there. Good job, Eric.
Good job, Eric.
millions of years old, doesn't it? And hey, how do we see starlight that is millions of light years away?
Yeah,
how
that's a good question.
How do we see all this stuff, and yet you're telling...
What is this border? Like, the people on... I have it cropped down a little bit, so the people on stream can only see it at the top, but it's this weird, like, is it leaves? It kind of looks like puke.
Yeah, that's kind of and it's like a weird neon, too. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that.
No.
But the graphics remind me of, like, for those of you in the chat who are around my age, that is to say, like, 23 to 25, you might remember Kid Pix, because this looks very similar to the Kid Pix, one of the Kid Pix paintbrushes that was titled Leaves. For you, Dapper, Kid Pix was like you go to the computer lab during school, and Kid Pix is what you play if you get finished with like Mavis Beacon early. It was like the fun game they had loaded onto the computer.
I see. Okay. There you go. I've never heard of it.
It's a very specific reference.
I got it.
1,000 years old. Well, that's what we're going to look at tonight. Exactly how old is it? Now, last session we discussed the two basic worldviews, creation and evolution.
I really hate that, but I'm not going to comment on it because you guys know what I think there.
We got the creation worldview and we got the evolutionary worldview. Now, according to creation, we said that God made the world about 6,000 years ago, and that's what I'm going to defend tonight. Evolutionists believe that it formed 4.6 billion years ago.
Because of overwhelming evidence, yes.
Now, I don't have to tell you that what we talked about last session, how evolution is just a religious worldview.
I'm going to take a drink because there's nothing religious about evolution, nor does evolution have anything to do with the age of the Earth.
That's a Hovind, that's a Kent Hovind holdover for sure.
Oh, definitely. Although I have a feeling that Eric probably still thinks that, or at least still says it, because Eric's one of the ones who I think is probably knows better, and at this point he's just too far in. And, like, the sunk costs are just too high for him to drop out of this craziness.
God, can you imagine, though, like, if Eric tweeted or something, he was like, yeah, you know, I'm just really not... I'm really not sure about this whole YEC thing.
Oh, goodness. That would be amazing. That would be call for its own special episode of Eric with Erika, where we just talk about that. So. God,
that would be so... That's like, that's ground for getting... That's grounds for getting plastered. If Eric Hovind jumped off the YEC train, even if it was OEC, I would be so pleased to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be crazy. But it would be interesting. And also, I'm now noticing... So, YouTube did some update to their website, and now there's new buttons on my stream, like my stream control panel, and it's confusing me. So, I'm sorry. Getting distracted by YouTube, like, behind-the-scenes stuff. Because they're like, hey, you can pin your merchandise. I'm like, okay. Maybe later, thanks. God. I do have a merch store, though.
I am not savvy enough myself to be able to mess around with YouTube's, like, custom features.
Yeah. Either way, we'll keep going. Let's see. Oh, that's a given. What Patreon level do we have to be at to call you to settle primatology-related arguments during parties and other social gatherings? Oh.
That's gonna be like a new Patreon tier. Like, what would be our next stage? What would you? Okay, Dapper. Quick sidebar. Okay. If it was up to you to pick the name, the binomial nomenclature for the next stage in human evolution, what would you pick?
Let's
see. We're a linguist.
Well, which way are we thinking humans are going to go?
Let's just say we become we're moderately the same morphologically, maybe lower average bone density, an extension of all the limbs for, the classic, who was the author of that?
How about Gracilis?
No. Do what?
How about Gracilis? The species.
Oh,
Yeah, why not?
Gracilis?
Yeah, why
I
not?
would love
Do it.
I would love that.
I'll tell you what Patreon tier you had to be at to be able to call me to settle dinosaur linguistics problems, and that's Archosaur. It's already a Patreon tier. No one's at it except for Bent. But you can feel free.
Yeah, maybe that's a good question. I mean, here's the thing, like, it depends. Do I have to be right? Because there's a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure the same thing is true with dinosaur-related questions, right? It's like, a lot of it is up in the air, and the best I can do is be like, okay, people are disagreeing, and I like so-and-so's opinion better, and so that's what I think. So you should think it too.
Well, they said to settle arguments, not to be right. So
Ooh.
as long as you can settle it.
Ooh, does that mean publishing?
No, I think it just means, like, they have a bar bet, and then, like, they call you to settle the bar bet, and then whatever you say is what they go with. So basically, it's not really asking. It's sort of like the Guinness Book of World Records. It's not always right, but you use it to settle bar bets, which was why it started in the first place.
Okay, yeah. I'm into that. Yeah, maybe we'll add that as a Homo sapiens perk.
Okay.
Or add a next stage of human evolution.
The Homo gracilis perk. Gotta give Erika $100 a month.
Yeah, we'll just casually add a brand new species.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. We can write some kind of science fiction story to justify it. These are humans that evolve after Elon Musk's colony settles on Mars. 10,000 years later.
Homo gracilis driving that Tesla.
Yeah, there you go.
Driving the Tesla around the star.
All right, here we go. A little bit more, Eric.
Evolutionists don't exactly like that, okay? They don't like us calling their worldview a religious worldview.
No one likes it when you mischaracterize their ideas, Eric. That's a thing. And also, for $2, Josiah Hansen says, Erika, did you see the young /flat Earth shirt? I did, and I thought it was fun.
I love it. I actually saw it when it was posted on Twitter. Love it.
Same.
Big fan. I actually think I still need to retweet it. Or maybe I think I retweeted it when someone posted it, but I haven't retweeted it every time, which is what I need to be doing. I love this whole deal with Eric. I mean, you can do this with any really weird fringe ideology. Like, if flat earthers are like, yeah, globeheadism is a religion.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Right.
Well, germ theory is also a religion, I guess. And,
gravity is a religion.
Every aspect of empirical science.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We just gotta work with it. It's fine.
The oxidation theory of fire, it's a religion.
The religion. Yeah.
Hey, maybe maybe that's what, like, Zoroastrianism is just going to turn into. It's just going to turn into oxygen theory.
Let's hope. That's a religion I can get behind.
Oxygen theory? Yeah. I mean, especially if we can bring in all the cool Zoroastrian art motifs. Like people sitting on, like, solar discs with wings coming out of it and stuff.
Yeah, I'm into that. I'm into the weirder aspects of all general religions. Like, I think that general Christianity is really missing out by not capitalizing on the really weird but hyper original angel design that they used to have, where it's like a wheel with a bunch of eyes.
Yeah, the one
wings.
that's actually in the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, the cool one. You know, like that one is actually dope.
Yeah, it would be nice to see more of that in actual Christian art, is the actual biblical angel. Because, it's actually pretty crazy. Although, to be fair, in pictures in Christian art depicting the actual scenes where, like, the seraphim and the wheels and whatnot are around, they actually usually do end up being a little bit more like that description. The angels you see in general art usually tend to be, like, the ones that, like, come visit Abraham or whatever, or Lot and his wife to tell them, hey, you should, GTFO from Sodom.
Next time someone asks me, they're like, what would it take for you to be a young Earth creationist? I'm going to be like, I need one of those wheel angels to come visit me in my home, and I'm in.
That might do it for me too. I would be like, well, I guess science is bullshit.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, my religious standpoint is heavily wheel angel contingent.
Well, there you go. Now we know.
But in reality, that's exactly what it is. Evolution is nothing more than a religious worldview. They say, no, it's not, because evolution is based on facts.
Oh, yep, true.
Well, we saw last week that microevolution is based on facts. The rest of the evolutions are not based on facts. It is simply something that is...
Drink for the 7.
Drink for the... six. We should add in a 7th. Not right now, though.
Yeah.
It would be an interesting thing to talk about. We could go undercover with like a sock account and try to introduce a 7th kind of evolution, see if we can get Kent Hovind to pick it up.
Dude, I already know the one that Kent would pick up easy. The evolution of morals. That's what you gotta throw at them. They love that. They love that one. Or like you could say intelligence, but they would love morals because they think that it's like an imbued thing.
And for $2, Vandeli1998 asks, Erika, are you a priest or pope of the primate church?
I am actually a follower of Hanuman, the monkey god. So
there you go.
I am but a humble follower.
Although I would point out that a pope is actually a gendered term.
No, can I be a popette?
Well, I believe the feminine version would be mater, M-A-T-E-R.
Ooh,
yeah.
Actually, I think that sounds cooler than pope. Pope reminds me of it brings a very specific image to mind. Mater sounds a lot more intimidating.
Well, so basically they both just come from the Latin for words for parents of either sex. Pope literally just comes from Latin for father.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and also the Pope in Rome isn't even the only Pope in the Catholic Church.
Okay, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, it turns out the Bishop of Alexandria in the Eastern Catholic Church that does kind of still exist in Alexandria is also a pope.
A double pope. Okay,
Yeah.
So what do you call it when you have a group of popes?
I don't know. I think it actually might be a diet.
A dyad?
No, a diet, like D-I-E-T.
Oh,
It sounds just like the word for when you're
yeah.
cutting down. Yeah. Because I don't think it quite counts as a council if it's just 2 guys.
I feel like there's got to be like a in poor taste sex offender joke in there somewhere.
Well, we'll let chat figure that one out for us.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Believe. They say, well, evolution, all it is change. Some things change, and we call that evolution. Well, if that's all evolution was, then we wouldn't have any argument, would we? I mean, because things change, don't they? Yeah, so
I don't actually know anyone who's out there advocating for evolution who just says the definition of evolution in the biological sense is just change. Change. Yeah, that's all it is. You know, if I move my phone to another table or something, I've changed. That's evolved. My apartment has evolved.
Your dog blows its coat in the winter. Like it's evolving. You know?
Like no one is out there saying that. Like I get that it would be a dishonest tactic if someone tried, but I really don't think anyone is. Also, apparently there's an Eth versus Theta fight, and I feel like Hayden Atoa needs to include Thorn in there because Thorn is the best such letter. So if no one knows what Eth and Theta and Thorn are, well, you're missing out. But I still am a big Thorn booster.
Okay, that looks like baby crayon words.
So if things change, if that's really what they're talking about evolution, then we wouldn't have any argument. But I don't think that's really what they're talking about.
No, it's not.
They're really talking about
how
all of life today.
Dude, he's so smug. He's so smug about this too. Like he gets up there and he's like, well, if change is all we're talking about, then we don't have any argument.
He's just proud of himself because of how big the straw man is that he just built.
Yeah, I know. And plus I get the general vibe that just speaking about public speakers in general, if you have props on the stage, it makes you a little overconfident. And he's got 2 props up there. So it doesn't bode well for the rest of the seminar.
Yeah, and they're weird props too, although I like that box. It's a nice little
I do
pattern.
like the box.
Is that globe on there? I think that's actually a map on there.
Yeah, that's a cool box. That would be really cool. It's like a gaming chest.
Yeah, you could pull out all your like books and dice and figures and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that would be actually dope.
Now, what you put inside of a globe is a decanter of whiskey and some glasses.
Oh, I was thinking you put Nathan Thompson's head up in a globe.
Well, you can do that too. Well, actually, he does that, but I always want, like, my dream house includes a library with a desk and a lounge chair next to, or actually a couple of lounge chairs next to a globe, and the globe opens up, and inside there's a little spot for a decanter, 2 tumblers, and there's whiskey in the decanter.
Ooh, you know what? I feel like I've seen those in like detective shows.
Oh, they're real. I've looked them up. They exist. You can get them.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I want one someday when I'm rich. So everyone join the Patreon to fund my whiskey globe.
Fund the Dapper library first, because I have a feeling one of those needs to be in a library with one of those sliding ladders.
Let's be honest, by the time I can afford that, it'll just be 4 Kindles. That'll be the library.
No, there's something so curiosity cabinet about having like a full-on library. I bet it smells so good in there.
Oh yeah, because books smell amazing.
Whiskey and old books.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a fireplace.
Oh yes, that's perfect.
Yeah. And although if I'm still in Arizona, it probably won't be a very big fireplace, because who needs a fireplace in Arizona most of the time? But still, it's going to be there.
Yeah, I think you almost have to move to Canada just for the aesthetic at that point.
Oh, my knee would hurt too much every time I stepped outside. There's a health reason I'm out here.
Well, I am with you in general pain. I'm fighting shin splints every day that I go running. So
I had that pretty bad at the beginning of boot camp. It gets better. You just got to push through it.
Okay, good. Because I basically okay. We can talk about my exercise
later.
Let's keep going.
Evolved. They're talking about the Big Bang. They're talking about the Earth forming, cooling down, and it raining on the Earth for millions of years.
Oh my goodness!
Drink for that.
Yeah. Drink. Yeah. Also, apparently, actually, he's gotten a few things right so far. Not many.
Yeah.
But also, I want to point out that it's increasingly seeming like I'm going to have to do like a basics of linguistics stream at some point, or maybe just a video, because people keep asking me about that stuff, and like I actually did like a little bit of like a basics of phonetics with Ben Hovind a few days ago. It was like, oh, that was really actually informative. I now know a lot more about, all this stuff, and because he was struggling, he's been brushing up on his Klingon, and he's been struggling a little bit with some of the sounds. So
that'd be a really cool video. I think that generally speaking, it's really good practice. Like if you have a channel that covers topic X a lot, to have like here's the basics. So that'd be dope. I'd watch that, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about with linguistics. Literally in videos, when I'm like, here's the thing, I'm always like, you can talk to my to my linguist Dapper.
Well, also, I want to say, Ben Hovind should be doing a Leaving Young Earth Creationism, not this week, but I think next week. So I have to double check with him, but I believe it's a week from Saturday that he'll be here doing a Leaving Young Earth Creationism episode. It'll be your first one of those in a while. So stay tuned for that.
Nope.
Years in creating oceans. Then they're saying through their worldview that the oceans mixed with the rock and made. You remember what it made? Soup. That's exactly right. And then 3 billion years ago, what happened to the soup?
Drink for primordial soup.
It came alive and found somebody to marry and something to eat. That's really...
Drink again, because there's a fish coming out of the soup. Drink again.
Yeah. And we're going to drink a third time for sexual reproduction in the first life form, because...
It's got to find a wife.
Yeah, and apparently it's got to be a male single-celled organism, because that's how single-celled organisms work.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, and it's got to be monogamous.
Yes, yeah. We can't have promiscuous bacteria on this planet. No. This is going to be a good Christian first life form.
No polygamous prokaryotes in my Christian Minecraft server.
It's so true. Oh, and I know that this is just supposed to be a joke, but it's just like, come on, everything about this is just beyond stupid.
God, it's just such a dumb trope too. Like, because the thing is, people that they're not big fans of like looking into this stuff. That genuinely sounds compelling, and that's such a bummer.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is, like, most people are aware of sort of male-female mating groups, and roughly what that means, at least in terms of, like, vertebrates, at least. But they're generally not as up on things like, like fungal mating groups, and how some fungi have, like, 5 mating groups, and things like, prokaryotes exchanging DNA when they come into contact with each other, as long as they're similar enough, or say anisogamous sexual reproduction. Like, none of this stuff like enters into most people's field of view, or like say haplodiploid life cycles, things like this. Like most people are just like, not a clue.
I had a conversation with someone years ago, and I'd actually just found out about it, so I was explaining it to them because I thought it was so cool. The whiptail lizard's parthenogenesis.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, these whiptail lizards, like they engage in like parthenogenesis. They're all female. And they were like, there's no way that that can happen. And I was like, wait,
Why?
wait, it's happening right now.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I was like, what do you mean it can't? Like, I hate that as a concept. You can genuinely just be like, here's a cool science thing. And they're like, no way is that true.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you're
know.
right.
It's like, it's right there. There actually, if I remember correctly, there's at least one parthenogenic species around here. Like where I
Oh,
live.
that would be so cool.
Of specifically lizards.
Yeah, I think for whatever reason, this is really weird, but I feel like I remember reading this somewhere. For whatever reason, a lot of them would live in really arid environments.
I think it's just that's where a lot of lizards live.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
True.
I think that's just
True
it.
and fair.
So,
True and fair.
yeah, you don't get too many Canadian parthenogenic lizards for reasons.
I know. It was such a bummer.
You get some turtles out there, though. You get turtles and snakes.
Yeah, they make up for it with crazy mammals, too.
Yeah, lots of... Oh! I left my Facebook open, so you heard that, but you also heard a Godzilla, so take a drink.
Nice.
All right, here we go. Where's my mouse? There it is.
Hard, but somehow their worldview looks at this world and says, that's exactly how it happened. I
no.
disagree. I'm looking at this world with the creationist worldview, and I see things very differently than those that believe in evolution. Now, a majority of Americans believe the Bible account of Genesis.
Okay,
Is that true?
This is definitely a very, very old seminar, because that Gallup poll has, I think it's down to like 30 for people who are young Earth creationists.
Nice. And also,
So
it's...
I know that this is an old video.
I would actually say that even if we're going to take it seriously, that like, oh, I guess he's trying to do an average or something. Yeah, I guess if you average all those top ones out, then yeah, you end up with that. But yeah, that's no longer the case. And even if it were, have you ever met the average person? They don't know much about much. They know a little bit about the things that are important to them. That's like taking a poll of everyone on some obscure scientific topic. It's like, hey, how many fingers?
I certainly fall into a trap where sometimes I'm like, how could you not know this? And then I think to myself, and I'm like, well, there's a ton of things that I don't know anything about that other people find really interesting. I really can't hold it against them for people tend to look at what they find interesting, and that's what they commit to memory. And I couldn't tell you a sports stat, so who am I, to throw stones in glass houses on that one. But I do think that when it comes to education, this is certainly something that is a foundational root for understanding like things as basic as the scientific method, and like why, or rather the scientific method is a root for this, but the two have a relationship with one another. And so I think that this is one of the things where it's like, well, maybe the American education system is failing a little bit.
just a little bit, yeah. Actually, and it reminds me too, because there was something I was talking to Alex Rubenstahl. He's a research paleontologist, and he mostly works on pseudotsuchians in the Jurassic and Cretaceous period, which is an understudied group. Because everyone's all about the dinosaurs, but
and pseudotsuchians are so cool too. That's such a bummer.
One of his big projects for a long time was the evolution of Spinosuchians, and they're basically like if a crocodile tried to be a cat. Really cool.
Oh my god, I'm actually looking up a picture right now.
Yeah, they're really cool, and like no one knows about them. But anyway, we were talking, and he said, like if you ask the average person on the street, like what's a dinosaur, they might be able to tell you reptiles that like had legs directly under the body. And it's weird because when you think about that, and then I think about like the things that I think of as the defining characteristics of dinosaurs, they're so much more specific and neatly categorized that I basically hadn't even thought about mentioning either of those two things. Because like I'm here sitting like, okay, what's the shape of the fourth trochanter on the femur, and like does it have a anterorbital fenestra, and what about a promaxillary? And it's just like, oh yeah, I remember that back in school we kind of learned that, and it's not technically true, but it's close enough that you'll probably get it right most of the time if you go with that. And so that's totally right. First of all, I looked up a picture of these guys, and they're adorable. Everyone should look at Spinosuchians right now. But in addition to that, I think you're absolutely right. I think that when you specialize in something, and something your field of knowledge is really deep in, when someone asks a question that has a relatively simple answer, you start overthinking it. I do all the time.
And you're like, okay, wait a second, let me take a step back, and really like make this something that isn't going to be a chore to listen to me explain.
I'm really bad with that, which is why I appreciate that I have a very nerdy audience, because you guys make me feel comfortable actually being a giant nerd most of the time. So
God, isn't that the best?
it really is.
I was floored by how cool people were just listening to me read papers the other day. Like, I was just going over papers and people liked it. And it's like, that makes me feel so good that it's like, not only because it's, something that I find interesting and love to talk about, but it makes me feel good that there are so many people out there who are genuinely interested in learning about an area that maybe they don't know as much about. And like, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're going to keep going a little bit here. Because I realize we start to ramble, and part of it is just we don't want to hear more Eric. That happens.
No, that's true. I know, that's true.
They believe in majority that God created the world in the last 10,000 years, okay? Very few actually believe in the evolution worldview, despite the fact that we've been teaching this for more than 40 years in the textbooks.
Whoa.
Yet still the majority of Americans hold to the creationist worldview. People say, well, Eric, the majority of scientists believe in evolution. Well, they're right.
Oh,
the
Godzilla.
majority of scientists do believe in evolution.
Go to Godzilla. And I'm going to put this out here. Saying the majority of scientists in the field believe a thing, it's sort of like saying, we took a poll and, 60% of Americans think that you don't really need to change the oil in your car. But we took another poll and 99.6% of all auto mechanics think you should. Who are you going to believe? A bunch of experts or morons off the street whose cars keep breaking down? Gee, I don't know. That's a crazy question. Let me think about it.
God. Okay. So also for those of you out there who may be curious, in 2016, people who thought that God created humans in present form, so classic young Earth creationists, were tied at 38% with theistic evolutionists, so humans evolved with God guiding, and continually humans evolved, but God had no process. Part of the process, rather, is still on the rise. It was at 19 then, and it's at 22 now.
All right.
So that's where we're at currently.
And as far as I'm concerned, take either of the second two options. I don't care which one of them you take. That's
Oh no!
not
Oh,
my
100%.
business.
No, yeah. I mean, that's. I want to be very. I've said this a million times, but I want to say it again because I think it's so good. But it's like, science has absolutely no problem with religion, generally speaking. Those things can coincide depending on how you want to look at things. But young Earth creationism cannot survive in tandem with science. That is 100% true.
I also want to say, hey, I'm looking at 47 people watching and only 25 likes. So
Shame on you guys. Shame on you.
Guys, gotta hit like. I'll know if you don't. I can tell. I can tell each of you. It on my side of YouTube, it gives me a little red X next to your name if you haven't liked it.
Yeah, that's when he gets his that's when he gets his like dinosaur pals together and they get ready to come hunt you down like it's an episode of Jurassic Park Camp Cretaceous.
You ever get whipped by a stegosaurus? Not fun.
It's not fun.
Those thagomizers, they'll get you.
Big old thagomizers.
I love the thagomizer too because it's like the only anatomical term that I know of that's based off of a Far Side cartoon.
God, yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, Far Side is awesome. I apparently Gary Larson is doing a couple of new comics every now and again on the internet, which is just great.
Well, he should keep it up because they're really great. They're a little boomery in terms of their humor, but they're still really amusing.
That's the thing. You can't even blame Gary though. Like I think most boomers just can't help themselves. Like a part of the boomerism is just in their nature.
Yeah.
So as long as they're funny, it's fine with me.
Look, just because you're a boomer doesn't mean you can't be funny, and it doesn't mean that you can't be relevant. It's just usually you're not. But whatever. We'll get out of the ageism because I mean, what am I? I'm 150 million years old.
That's true. That's true. Well, and I'm a gibbon, and our lifespans aren't that long, so. They're fine. They're
and you're
like
already in your 20s. Guys, get as much Erika as you can now.
I know. So Icarus in the side chat says, in the after show, Logical Probable, or John Maddox, says he wants to teach his 10-year-old both sides and let her decide if creationism or evolution is more convincing. I'm going to say a huge press X to doubt that our friend John Maddox is going to teach both.
I would say he might think that's what he's doing. He might not be lying, but I have serious doubts that he will be able to effectively present biological evolution in a way that anyone who is knowledgeable about the subject would find acceptable.
Yes, I think that is 100% fair enough. Yeah, I like to get I like to come after John Maddox a little bit, but I think
You know,
that I think that was right.
I had a very nice chat with him after my debate with Sal. It was very nice and polite.
I am very glad for you, but yeah, in today in the side chat of Standing for Truth's hosting of Bob Binyard and Brennan Nickel, he was a bit feisty with me. But then again, John and I don't really get along that much on the face of things anyway. So.
Well, in this case, we were talking about things like how unjust it is that especially non-violent felons have trouble getting a job after they get out. And we were talking about the fact that he has a guy who he was released from jail like 15 years ago, and he just can't get a job or a place to live, and so he's been homeless for 15 years. And so we're talking about things like like reform to criminal justice systems and stuff. And actually, he and I have a lot of common ground there. So I think that's why it worked, because we had something we could meet on and agree on, and he and I have some similar beliefs about the unfairness of the justice system in terms of things like drug offenses. Sex work. He's actually pro-legalizing prostitution.
Okay, cool. Good for him.
He's not pro-prostitution, which I don't care. That's you do. You have whatever opinion on it that you want. Don't be pro-victimizing people who don't need to be victimized, basically.
Yeah, he strikes me as a very much libertarian style dude.
He, as far as I know, he is actually pretty strongly libertarian. And
okay, all right.
There you go. Well, here we go.
But what the majority believes is not necessarily true, is it? I mean, it's right. It's right that that's what they believe, but what they believe is not necessarily right. Okay? Yes, just.
It's true. It's not does not logically follow that because the experts believe something, it is true. However, because something is true is a good reason for experts to believe it. So if you reverse the causality there, suddenly it becomes fairly compelling.
The double standard thing is such a massive creationist blunder that you see all the time as well. Like, these are the same guys that'll be like, you can't trust that, every oil surveyor on the planet except for Zion Oil uses, basin modeling, which relies on radiometric dating in order to find fossil fuels. And it works so often because, a $257 billion a year industry relies on it. You can point to that and be like, hey, so maybe we can trust this thing since people love money and that's what they care about, and so they're using radiometric dating. They'll say, no, you can't appeal to the majority. And then they'll turn around and cart someone like, freaking David McQueen out there, or whatever the guy's name is. I think it's David McQueen on that Standing for Truth hat on, who's got like an MS in, aerospace engineering, and then comes on to talk about theology. And then they'll be like, well, he's got some kind of degree and he says this about geology, therefore what he's saying must be true. If we can get someone with some letters after their name to say it, it's all good. AIG does the same thing with Andrew Snelling and Answers in Genesis and Georgia Purdom and Nathaniel Jeanson and all this stuff. So they've got this huge double standard where appeal to the majority is not okay because you can't trust the experts just because they're experts. But then they will readily, happily, with an absolutely shit-eating grin on their face, cart out people who have degrees to bolster their point.
But often not in the area that they're talking about. Like when Georgia comes out to talk about geology.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, I would hazard to say, most of the time, not in the area that they're talking about. They'll bring Georgia Purdom's ass out to talk about, population genetics every opportunity they can get, or geology, it's flat or something. And she's standing up there, waxing poetically about the strata in the earth. And you're like, hey, Georgia, remind me again.
What's your PhD in?
Remind me again what your PhD is in.
Because it's not geology, is it? What is it? You're a geneticist who barely ever talks about genetics because you couldn't do it with a straight face because you know how wrong it is.
Well, and so that's the thing too, is that it's like, I want to be very clear, and I said this before too, but just because you're not an expert in something doesn't mean you can't talk about it. So long as you have sources to back up what you're saying by people who do know what they're talking about. So, Dapper and I can come on here and discuss geology as long as we say, hey, here are a couple of geologists who, are basically saying what we're saying. We're parroting them, but if we were to come up here and start talking nonsense about, I don't know, quantum mechanics without backing it up with someone who actually knows what they're talking about, you have no reason to believe what we're saying.
Yeah, I can pull out people who are actual geologists and or actual paleontologists for that matter, because I'm not an actual paleontologist. I'm just a guy who reads a lot of papers.
Yep. Same with me in a great many fields. I mean, that's the thing. If you can provide, someone who backs up your point, who has excellent methodology and some work that they've done, good experimental stuff, nice statistical tests, whatever. And of course, there is an element of subjectivity to what is considered good science. But typically predictive power is what we go off of. And if you can provide that, well, why isn't that considered something to bolster your point?
Right.
The problem comes when you've got people who have no idea what the hell they're talking about, coming on, making claims without sources or numbers or, the
or sources that contradict them, because they do that too.
They do. Oh my God, yes, they do that.
That's one of my favorites. Actually, that happened in the video I'm going over. I've got one video in the can on this series, and then one more to come. It'll be a 4-part series. But the previous part had Arthur Chadwick from Loma Linda University going over stuff that his own university has published papers saying he's wrong about, and the data he himself collected on paleocurrents contradicts his point on paleocurrents.
Oh my God. Okay, actually,
he collected the data himself.
That's a great point, and I want to bring up my favorite example of this really quickly too. In Contested Bones, which is a book on paleontology, specifically hominin paleontology, written by 2 creationists, neither of which are paleontologists, let alone biological anthropologists. They link a paper in a paragraph where they're talking about how, biological anthropology is bad because we find 2 bones that are far away from each other by, several hundred meters at the most, and are like, hey, these probably came from the same individual, use them to construct, a single skeletal individual and call it a day. And they're like, you can't do this. Here's a source saying you can't. And then the source is literally written by Bernard Wood, and it's like methods for laser scanning and determining whether 2 bones with a shared articular surface came from the same individual. And I'm like, you can't make this shit up. You can't make it up.
I have a couple things from the live chat that I want to point out. One is German Furman asks if you saw his Christmas fan art. I think he probably put it on Twitter.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't see any Christmas fan art. When was this posted?
Probably in the last few days. He posted one of me, and I'm using it as my avatar in the video that I just finished today.
Oh my God, I'm pulling up Twitter now.
Also, Andrew Cummings says, perhaps there is a difference between authority and science based on evidence and authority based on because I said so. Yeah, there actually is. So, authority based on things like evidence and facts can also be called expertise. Whereas the authority to order people around is usually some kind of ethical or political thing. So it's most common in terms of political authority, which is the idea in political philosophy that for some reason the government has the authority to obligate you to act in ways that they tell you to. So usually within certain limits. And the expertise type of authority doesn't really need any special justification, but there are whole volumes trying to justify political authority and doing so with varying degrees of success. And yes, they are very, very different. And the sort of moral authority that you might get from, say, like a god or something like that would be more akin to the political authority than the expertise. Although presumably a god would also have expertise. So we're going to go ahead with a little bit more Eric, though.
Yes, please.
Barely a majority of scientists do believe in the evolution worldview. But just because the majority of scientists believe something, does that make it right? No. Science actually has a very long history of being very, very wrong. They used to teach us that the Earth was the center of the universe.
Okay, so wait a minute. Have you seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember the quote-unquote court case over who should pay for the damages to Dennis's car when Frank rear-ended him?
Yeah, because sometimes science is a liar.
Right.
I love that episode.
This is the argument here.
Yeah, because science changes, therefore, because science is a bitch sometimes.
Yeah. Do you want to be a stupid science bitch? No.
Yeah,
So reject evolution. This is literally the Ronald McDonald argument here. And
this is literally him coming on screen and like presenting Newton and Galileo and being like, because they were wrong, can you really trust science?
And he slaps up the big piece of paper that just says bitch over their faces.
making Galileo another stupid science bitch.
Oh man. Oh, so also for $2.99 dues, Ian Chen says, "Hi Daps, Erica. Thanks for setting up a I think it's PayPal. Erica. Actually, I need to change my PayPal so it doesn't show my real name."
So Ian, actually, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, Ian, the other day I was actually sitting mindlessly watching. Well, not mindlessly. I was intently watching the Queen's Gambit, attempting not to do my statistics. And I was like, what can I be doing while I'm sitting here that isn't my statistics? And so I decided to set up the PayPal because I thought of you, Ian. So that I thank you for thanking me, and thank you for your generous PayPal donation as usual.
Actually,
Too generous.
You know who alerted me that my PayPal gave out my real name was our friend Corporal Anon. Because there's Mothra.
Wait,
Ian,
are you debating?
What's that?
I'm so sorry. Ian Chen says he's debating Neffy. Are you debating Neffy, Ian?
Oh my goodness, that would be awesome. Please tell us when and where.
Yeah, I would be a part of a prep for that for sure.
Because so basically Colton had he'd commissioned some art from me, and I was like, oh, here's how you can PayPal me. He's like, wait, did I just learn your real name? Which I don't care if Corporal Anon knows my real name. But yeah, no, that's how I figured it out. My real name is because it was on my PayPal. So oops.
Yeah, I've heard of a couple of folks getting doxxed by that, by Patreon and by PayPal, and sometimes, occasionally, by super chats.
Well, so my real name isn't some big secret. The reason I don't use it is because I don't want it to be about me as a person. I feel like that's easier if people don't have a real name to associate with me. So it's like, if I get doxxed and my real name goes out there, I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. It's not a big deal.
I think I'm fairly easy to find as a person as well. I've dropped where I got my undergrad degree. Everyone knows where I'm getting my master's degree. I don't think I'm super difficult to find. And the only reason I have my real name, my real first name in use is because before I was going to debate him, I saw him make fun of someone one time where he was like, they don't even use their real name. They use some kind of cartoon name on here. And I was like, damn, I don't want to give him any reason to make fun of me for being gut-sick. So I was like, I'll just give him my first name because I couldn't think of a cooler name to use.
Oh, he used my first name in the debate too. If you listen to that debate, he just calls me Tim, which is fine. I don't care. But let's get a little bit more about why science is a liar sometimes.
Could we, in a moment, I need to get another drink because.
Oh, you know what? We'll just take a quick intermission then, because it's coming up on time for a new drink for me as well. So here we go. We'll take a quick intermission. We will be back in a few minutes, everybody.
Okay, super.
And yes, I'm not a person. I'm a Ceratosaurus.
And I'm a gibbon, obviously.
I want to take a moment to talk about something serious. There is a problem facing late surviving non-avian dinosaurs in modern America. Hunting is very strictly regulated, and only allowed at certain times of the year. This means that for much of the year we have to rely on farm-raised food, which means money. If you want to help a starving dinosaur, please consider donating on Patreon, or buying from my merch store. Links are in the description. Please help. Dinosaurs all over YouTube are depending on you to help them through the hunting off-season. Oh, Nani? Dare? Oh, Kojira desu ka? Hai, Kojira-san. Hai. All right, we are back, everyone. I hope you liked the intermission. I enjoyed it as it allowed me to get a nice fresh beverage, which, by the way, I'm drinking actually iced green tea that I have spiked. It's Everclear. Well, you already said it was Everclear. So are you lying about the beer? I like to add in a couple drops of like some cranberry juice. That works too. Just a few drops. Exactly. You know, like you only want like like maybe 100 cc's in your tall drink of Everclear.
That's been going around lately where a guy is
And
like,
Erika was muted because I'm an idiot.
Okay, sorry guys. Well, I was just about to make a funny joke or reference a funny meme. So there's there's one where this guy is like, how I make my mimosas, and it's like a champagne glass or like champagne flute just filled, so it's just like almost there's surface tension at the top, and they take like a Windex bottle full of orange juice and like spray it once.
That's actually kind of how I do my my vermouth in my martinis. So what I usually do is it's called a rinse, right? So you take a bit of whatever liquid this is, right? And you roll it around the glass and then you pour it out. So there's still a little bit on the glass. And that's sometimes how I do a vermouth rinse on the inside of my martini glass, and then I just stir in some gin. And usually I make them a little bit dirty, so I put a little bit of the olive brine in there, stir that around, and yeah, that makes a really nice. Because the thing is, you don't want no vermouth, but like the vermouth can overpower it very quickly. And like if you look at old cocktail recipes, like it was like half and half vermouth gin, and I tried that once, and it made me gag, and I'm never doing that again. Oh, the Churchill Martini involves just basically putting gin in a cocktail shaker, stirring it, pouring it over olives, and then whispering the word vermouth over the glass.
Oh my god, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was how he did his, because, he was too much of a traditionalist to skip out on the vermouth at all, so he would just whisper, vermouth.
Hey, it counts no matter what the amount is.
All right, here we go. Let's get a little bit more science is a liar sometimes.
Let's do it.
They used to teach us that big rocks fall faster than little rocks.
Yep, science is a liar sometimes.
Science is a liar.
Years.
Man.
And it was
science
wrong. They used to teach if you were sick, it's because you have bad blood. You need to take out some of your blood and you'll get better.
I want to point out that all of these things were actually before the scientific method was established.
I honestly am, mentally screaming at the idea that bloodletting is what debunks evolution.
Well, look, George Washington, he's a stupid science bitch. Because he died from bloodletting.
Just throw the whole president out.
I love that he's wearing his wig on his deathbed. I'm pretty sure George Washington wasn't wearing his wig on his deathbed, but what do I know? Maybe he was just that proper.
How else would you know that the cartoon is George Washington? But the funny thing about this is that they put the wig on him, right, to let you know this is George Washington, and then they just put a real picture of George Washington in the corner.
Like, you could have just not, guys. I'm surprised. I'm surprised it doesn't have his non-existent wooden dentures nearby, because he didn't actually have wooden dentures. What he What he had was far creepier because it was mostly slave teeth.
Eee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, way
actually,
worse.
I think I remember that on like the whole let's cancel George Washington, where it's kind of like, yeah, I don't really know that you can like if you're gonna cancel someone for something that was highly inappropriate in the day now, well, I think that you're gonna end up canceling a lot of people.
Yeah, you're gonna have to cancel pretty much everyone, including most of your quote unquote heroes. Like
everyone's got a skeleton in their closet, and it just gets really dicey the more you go back in time because people are people.
Yep. There's a famous civil rights warrior who liked to do things like beat prostitutes while cheating on his wife.
The classic. That's the classic one.
You gonna cancel him too? We're gonna have to change a lot of street names.
Oh man, yeah. It gets a little concerning. You know, nobody's perfect, and that has to apply to history, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they were
okay.
wrong.
They were
just because the majority.
I really wish you were saying they were science bitches. It would be so much better.
So for the members in the chat who maybe don't know, this is actually an unironic performance of a skit in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is, or a gag, I guess you would say, because it's not like a skit show. A gag in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is a show about like horrible people being dumb.
Yeah, and it was one of the dumbest of them.
Yeah, like that's one of the conceits of the show. So he's just doing this and I realize this is back in like 2005 or whatever the hell is going on here, but I can't even imagine unironically presenting this even then.
Yeah.
Well, someone said that to me actually in a chat the other day where they were like, I really don't like that science changes. And it's like, well, I really don't know what to tell you.
So my headcanon is that Mac watches Eric Hovind videos.
Ah, yes, that's gotta be it.
Yeah. Despite being Catholic. Although, to be fair, he's like the worst Catholic in existence, so.
Yeah, we love Mac in a way that you love, I don't even know how you would phrase, in a way that you love watching a train wreck from a distance.
Yes.
People believe something does not make it right. Hey, if we were to go scuba
well, that's
diving,
true. I'll take a drink.
And we found a treasure chest full of gold coins.
Okay.
And I ask you the simple question, hey, when did that boat sink?
Is that a treasure chest? Did he just pick up coins from his treasure chest? Did he have the entire prop there just to pick up some coins?
Nah, dude, that's cool as hell. Like,
yeah.
That's cool. That's a really cool move.
I say cheers, Eric. That's a baller move right there. I like it.
Yeah, I'll drink on that. That's really cool. Like, I think that Eric was like, listen, we really got to have some props up here. I'm thinking we put up like a thing, and maybe we have like a couple coins by it. Or rather, that's what like the assistant said. And then Eric was like, now we gotta fill that whole bitch up with coins. Like, if the whole thing's not full of coins, how do you know it's a chest?
I just picture the poor stagehand who has to haul all that stuff in.
Yeah, they're like, how about we put like a false bottom in it so we don't have to use that many coins?
No.
Oh no, we have to fill it to the top.
There's some poor guy who just works at whatever venue this is. He's like, "Oh, damn creationists make me carry 50 pounds of coins." And it's for one visual gag in part of the show.
It really is one visual gag. And like, as everyone in this chat is saying, like, we all know where this gag is going. Like, it's not a huge surprise where this is going to end up.
Yeah,
but
he's gonna say, if you want to know when the ship sank, you have to look at the youngest coin. Okay.
Yep.
What about if I want to know when the ship was built, Eric? Because if I wanted to know when the Earth blew up and all I had were coins produced on Earth, yeah, I'd look at the latest ones. But if I wanted to know when Earth was formed, I would say it has to be before the earliest coin.
God, it's such a simple concept too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could teach this in an elementary school, like a later elementary school classroom, and kids would be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I could teach that to 4th graders.
Like, he thinks so lowly of his audience.
Boat sink. Could you tell me? Well, you could look at the dates that are on the coins, couldn't you?
Ugly German Truth says that there were like chocolate dollar coins. The thing is, though, I don't think they had a Foley artist to make that coin clinking sound. That was room audio. So they've got to actually be metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you imagine too, if he like commissioned them, that's sick.
The coin in there from, let's see here, 1750. then you know the boat sank when? Before 1750 or after 1750? After.
Well, maybe he doesn't think too lowly of his audience.
That was
That was
I like
great.
to-
Oh my goodness. I took a
I
drink
like
for
to-
that.
I like to imagine Nephilim Free is, you know what, Nephilim Free is actually much more fringe creationist than Eric Hovind. I like to imagine that Standing for Truth's father is out in the audience. He's teaching him how to interact. I love
Standing
it.
senior.
Yeah, Standing Senior.
1750. No, not before 1750 because we've got a coin in there from 1750. So the boat couldn't have sunk before 1750. If we find another one that says 1827, now we've got a younger coin, and that puts a limiting age on when that boat sank, doesn't it?
Right, but not when it was built. When was the keel laid, Eric? The coins aren't going to help us.
We have a brand new limiting factor. Then I find one in there that is from, 1859. Now we've even limited even farther. Hey, when we're trying to figure out when that boat sank, do I look for the oldest coin or the youngest coin? The youngest coin.
Taking more
All right,
drinks.
we'll get it figured out.
Apparently
We're
his
gonna look
audience
for the
isn't being
youngest
underestimated.
Coin, the youngest coin, the one with the oldest date, but you know,
My goodness.
it's the youngest coin.
Although I do want to point out those all sound like teenagers, so I think that the whole "I'm hip with the kids" that you were talking about, yeah, he's definitely going in on that.
He
The oldest.
really, yeah, that is the thing. That's the dangerous game that you play when watching Eric Hovind, is you risk not only seeing him try to be hip with the kids, but also the nerdier kids just throwing away their social capital in the audience by engaging with
Oh man, I would have been that kid when I was a
God,
creationist. I would have been that kid.
no, dude, I was too scared. I didn't want the more like alpha Chad creationists to think I was trying to be too cool, you know?
Although, well, so here's one thing. As I was exiting Young Earth Creationism, we actually had a creationist come and talk at my church. And in the middle of his talk, I interrupted, and he was like, "We have to take this part of the Bible seriously." He was like, "Oh, okay, well, why don't we have to take the part about the floodgates of heaven opening to letting in the rain? Like, why don't we have to take that literally? Do you think that there's
God,
gates in the
I know.
sky?" And he was like, "Well, that's obviously a metaphor." I was just like, "Why?"
That
just why?
one, and then there's one too in Psalms where it's like after God makes the earth, he says that he won't move the foundations of the earth ever again, which just really roasts both hydroplate and catastrophic plate tectonics.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stuff that's really weird with regard to interpretation. I tend to think what John Walton said about it is really true. He's like this, I think he's a theistic evolutionist. He's definitely a Christian. He's at least older. He said once, he was like, the fact that we interpret with so much confidence, and evangelicals in particular interpret Genesis with so much confidence, is really silly. Because first of all, we're translating this from a different language, and translating a language is hard enough. But you know what's a lot harder? Is translating a culture.
Yeah.
Figuring out precisely what certain things meant within the context of that culture. And I always, that has really stuck with me moving forward with just general ideas about anthropology too, moving forward, is that it's like, it's not enough to just translate the language. You also have to know what it means within the context of the people group you're looking at.
Yeah, which is especially tough when the people who wrote it several thousand years ago.
Oh yeah, totally. And you know, the example that I've heard a lot too with language is that it's like, if you took the phrase in English, American English, or I guess UK English, whichever one, but it's like, it's raining cats and dogs out there. It's like explaining that to like the cultural context of that to someone maybe who doesn't speak English.
No,
Like
Erika,
obviously they're not going to.
4,000 years from now, there's going to be a religion out there that says that it literally rained cats and dogs because it was in some English scripture that they have.
Some kind of what is that? Some kind of created cats and dogsosity.
Yeah, like, oh, God must have just created a bunch of cats and dogs in the air and then they fell because God was using an infinite improbability drive or something. I don't know.
It's like, yeah, dude, they literally thought that that's what was happening. It's like, okay, you must think very lowly of us.
Well, to be fair, people do think fairly lowly. A lot, not everyone, but a lot of people do think very lowly of people 4,000 years ago. That's
true, and I love the maybe racist conceit that you get from folks at Ancient Aliens who are like, God, like, could
Yeah, what did the aliens help the Europeans with? Stonehenge, and that's it.
Yeah, it's like the Europeans could do all this cool shit, and then like Egyptians do something, and they're like, nah, they couldn't have done it. People were too dumb. It had to have been
Impossible. Yeah,
It's only brown folks, and you're kind of just like, that's a little selective.
yeah. Although sometimes it's Romans too. Do they count as brown?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the era, right?
Yeah, well, though to be fair, it's never the Romans doing stuff in Rome or the Italian peninsula. It's always like some weird bit of architecture in like that was built in Roman times in like the Middle East or something.
That's true. Yeah,
So there's that weird thing in there, and I noticed that a while because look, Ancient Aliens is a guilty pleasure of mine. I love that show. It's hilarious. It's just so crazy. So I watch it very much ironically. But yeah, I did notice that. I was like, oh, so it's all the non-Europeans who need the help from the aliens. Okay. Or maybe, maybe it's actually racist the other way, and the aliens just didn't like the Europeans, so they didn't bother with them.
I actually saw a YouTuber cover that, and they made a shirt out of it that was like, aliens really hate white people. It was kind of funny. And it had like the Easter Island head on it, and I was like, that is kind of funny, like that as a concept. Yeah, Ancient Aliens is really weird. My current guilty pleasure show that I was watching with my fiance, this is totally off topic, but is a show about glass blowing. And it's very funny to me because for the sole reason as to, one, there are a bunch of people really competitive about glass blowing, but also because the heater that they use to get the glass hot is unironically called a glory hole, and no one cracks a smile when they call it that ever in the show.
Oh goodness!
And it's funny. It's funny every time.
Well, hey, you know who? The California Department of Health recommended those recently, so.
Hey, yeah, I got to keep the spread down.
All right, we're going way off topic. I'm gonna bring it back to Eric.
Okay, come on, Eric.
The youngest coin becomes our limiting factor. We know that it had to sink after 1859 because there's a coin in there from 1859. Let's apply that same logic to the age of the Earth. There are hundreds of ways to show how old this ball of dirt is. Some of them show that it's very old. Some of them show that it's very young.
But that's a disanalogy, Eric. You were talking about when a ship sank. That would be when the planet was destroyed.
Yeah. False equivalency all the way. Yeah. I mean, it's bad as a concept as it is, but the way he's taking it makes it significantly worse.
Mm-hmm.
See, we don't need to worry about the old ones, the ones that show it's old. What we need to worry about is the ones that show us that it's young. That becomes
I would like him to name one.
Our limiting factor on how old the Earth really is. So exactly how old is this Earth anyway? How long has this ball of dirt been going around the sun? Well, the best way to find that out is to ask the guy who made it. Let's go to God's Word because...
Okay, drink.
Yeah, I'm going to take a drink. I'm not even going to explain why I'm taking a drink. If you guys don't know, then...
Yep. Do we want to take a couple of wagers in the chat? I think this would be a fun activity.
Ooh.
Which overused and ancient argument is Eric Hovind going to use to support the idea that the Earth is in fact very young? Is it going to be something more New Age stuff like fission tracks and radio halos, or is it going to be really old stuff like the accumulation of dust on the moon and ocean salinity?
Oh, I hope it's ocean salinity. That's one of my favorites. And also, Ugly German Truth asks, Slaughter Barfest? And so here's one of the things I love. I just offhandedly mentioned the infinite improbability drive. And yeah, my audience got that one. I just love you guys. That is awesome. Thank you so much for having like the exact same nerdery that I do. Oh, that's one of the things I love about my audience is that like, because they're self-selected, like they choose to be here, they end up being basically the same kind of nerd that I am. And I just love it so much. Ooh, Moon Recession. Ooh, I like that one.
Oh, that is a good one.
That's a great... Oh, man. All right, well, let's...
Yeah, I can see Moon Recession. Actually, I can totally see that.
Yeah. Or just the famous, were you there? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what he does, in fact, do. But, man. Oh, I'm a Hoopy Fruit. Thank you, Eric. Erika, I'm Hoopy. I'm a Hoopy Fruit.
Ooh, is that like a Klingon thing?
No, that's from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay, well, yeah, you guys can throw me in dork jail.
Yeah, you basically just need to reread the trilogy, all 5 books.
It's been, so I've only actually ever read the first, and it's been quite some time. I know.
Okay, well, you have a book to reread, and then 4 new books to read, so...
Well, I'm on that, and I'm also on the hook for reading The Wheel of Time.
Nope, you should
That's
work
another
it.
thing that's been pushed on me. So I've got a lot of reading to do.
All right, well, maybe after the thesis, but you got to get on that.
Yeah. Deal. Okay.
I believe in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. How old does God say that this world really is?
Actually, want to bet on this once because there was a guy who was like, "Oh, the Bible says the Earth is this old," and I was like, "Point to that section," and he couldn't, so I got his $20.
Yeah, dude. The whole thing is that the Bible doesn't say anything about that. It's all Bishop Lightfoot. Like Bishop Lightfoot says XYZ, therefore must be true.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. You can actually study this out in Scripture. What does God say about the age of the earth? It's in there. Check this out. I got to go through a few verses to let you know where I'm going here. Colossians tells us, for by him, that's Jesus, Jesus was God in the flesh, okay? For by him, Jesus, were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth. So Jesus was God in the flesh, despite what the Jehovah's False Witnesses say. He was.
I mean, I find it amusing, but then again, I'm not here to defend, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, so those guys can...
Yeah, to be fair, there's nothing funnier to me than seeing, like, the infighting. Like, I think the infighting is very funny.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Very few versions of Christianity, including Eric's, are as destructive to its members as the Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's true.
Yeah, the Jehovah's Witnesses are in a special camp of just nope.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of nope. I don't normally give out my opinions on religions. However, when it comes to destructive cults, there's a difference there. Most religions are not destructive cults.
Yeah, though there's a difference between abiding by a certain set of ideological perceived truths and, like, actively hurting members of your religion.
Yeah, and the Jehovah's Witnesses definitely do that.
Yeah. Cannot get behind that. Freedom of religion all the way, every moment of every day, but definitely not if it includes hurting people.
Yep.
Okay? And Jesus said in Matthew 19:4, have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? By the way, it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. We got to say that these days in our culture.
Oh, goodness. I'm taking a drink for a joke that was terrible.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm drinking there, too.
I'm not sure if I'm drinking for just the homophobia in general or for it being a joke that didn't land. I don't know. I'm just drinking because I can't.
Yeah, I'm drinking for that, too. It's mean-spirited, it's homophobic, it's stupid, and it's unoriginal. So we get all of those points.
Yeah.
Beginning is when God made them male and female. Mark 10:6 tells us the same thing. From the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. He said that was the beginning, okay? Then we learn in Romans that death came into the world because of what? Sin. The reason we have death in our world is because of man's sin. Then we learn in 1 Corinthians that by man came death. In Adam, all die.
All right, I'm going to skip ahead because I don't care about this.
Man, right? The earth really is. Check it out. The Bible says Adam was 130 years old when he had a son and called his name Seth. So let's write that down, 130. Then it says Seth was 105 when Enos was born, plus 105. Enos was 90 when Canaan was born, plus 90. If you actually continue going through those verses in the Bible, those are the ones that cure insomnia. I know. So-and-so begat so-and-so and so.
Oh, wait, that was a joke.
Drink for that.
Because no one laughed. Not even his audience thought that was funny.
That's because they're all kids and they were like, what? The kids with their memes, with their MTV and their SNL.
Oh, you think MTV was still playing music at the point that this thing was made?
I don't know. Maybe I guess I should say with their Comedy Central.
Oh, okay, comedy. Yeah, maybe. Because, man, I remember MTV when it had music on. I miss that.
Yeah, I was like,
It's just trash now.
I was like double gametes when that was happening. So.
No, I remember it. I remember the sort of decline where it became just like video requests was like the only show that still played music, and it then became like the only show I watched on MTV. And yeah, I wish there were still a station that would play. Also, hold up a second. Look at that. Not everyone can see it. I'll try to get a frame where everyone can see it because I have a bone to pick with this globe in the background.
Okay, I also want to point something out that I just think is really funny. two things that I think is really funny. Actually, one is from RJM Truth, who says Eric is just not funny. True.
Yeah, absolutely. You know
I
what?
think it's really
Cheers,
funny to
RJM.
just point it out. Yeah, just pointing it out is really funny, especially saying it like that, because yes, that is an actively true statement. And then Maxwell Theum, I don't know. Correct me on how I pronounce that. When Maxwell Max says, "Why does Eric look like someone who would simp for e-girls?" True, Eric does look like someone who would condemn OnlyFans and then have like 6 to 7 subs.
No, I feel like he would be the guy who, like, every once in a while throws like a tip to like a Twitch girl who's got an OnlyFans, but then he tries to like pirate her OnlyFans videos. Because
either that or he white knights and he's like, you really don't need to do this OnlyFans thing, right?
Like, yeah.
It's like I could see that too. Like he's like invites her to the church luncheon. She's like not into it, but he keeps trying.
Oh man. Okay, that's enough about Eric Hovind's hypothetical sex life.
God, he's just getting so theological so fast.
I mean, it's his audience. I don't blame him.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't take too long before you're out, all right? But if you actually go through those verses in the Bible, they teach us some incredible truths. You add up the dates given to us in the Bible clearly teaches the earth is only about 4,000...
Oh, wait, hold on. I can get it here. Okay, this is what I was talking about. Okay, so take a look at this globe, right? The cloud texture isn't seamless. About 90% of the way to the right, there's a clear seam on the cloud texture. Dudes, you clearly made this in 3D. Rotate the cloud texture. That's all it takes.
Yeah,
it's one number. It's the Z rotation.
Do not pay them enough for that, and you know it. Like they.
Dude, this is.
Oh my god!
It's like you know that meme about like when the client says, "Can you do it cheaper?" And like the art just gets way lower quality. That's what I feel like happened here. Someone was like, "Oh, can you make a cool 3D globe?" And they were like, "Yeah, it'll be like $45." And they're like, I've only got like $20 though." He's like, "All right, here you go."
No, see, I'm going to take that a step further. I think Eric found someone to commission, and then they told him the price. They were like, "Okay, that'll be like $45," and he was like, "Don't you just want to do it for like a promotion or for exposure?"
For exposure.
And they were like, "Wait, no?" And he was like, "That's all right." And then Eric went onto their Instagram, found something he liked, and then did a poor attempt at pulling the watermark off of it, and then just marketed it as his own.
Oh man! By the way, people, pay your artists. If you hire an artist, pay them well, because
it's worth it to pay your artists.
Yeah, look, as someone who occasionally takes commissions for art, which, by the way, if you need art stuff done, you can ask me. Yeah, it bugs me when people try to underpay, like And look, if you can't afford it, then that's fine. But like, don't pretend that like it's not worth what it's worth. Like, I had someone ask me about an animation, and I was like, well, depending on like the size of the animation and whatnot, and exactly what you need, about 15 cents a frame is probably where I'm going to start. And I'm like, okay, well, how much is that? And I was like, well, for this resolution, this long of a video, we're looking at this much money. And it was just like, I can't afford it. I was like, well, then I can't help you. I'm not going to sit here and spend hours of my time for nothing. Like, pay your artists. They do good work. We work hard. It's not easy to do art. It takes a lot of time and effort to learn how to do it well. So yeah, it is a high skill profession.
There is also the possibility that like Eric's nephew or something did this, and the mom was like, "Listen, I know you're not a creationist anymore, and like I know you're off at that liberal arts college,
but Uncle Eric,
just help your Uncle Eric out. He really needs the help. I promise he's not coming to Thanksgiving this year anyways. Just help him out so I can send him on his way." And then they're like, "Oh, damn it, fine, whatever. But I'm not, I swear to God, Mom, I'm not focusing on this cloud texture. Like, I have a final in the morning." And that's how the whole thing hashed out.
Well, also, I'd point out that it looks like they didn't even bother to smooth shade or put a very high poly count on the 3D model that they used. And I know I'm getting off into the weeds of the technical aspects, but I just love how completely incompetent this graphic is. Everything about it.
the entire goddamn budget went to that treasure chest full of coins.
They had to get
That's
authentic
where the
gold
whole
coins
thing
from
went.
They had to get authentic gold coins from the 18th century.
That's where the whole budget went. Like,
Goodness.
that's where all the money.
All right, well, I think I've complained enough about this globe. Let's keep going.
1,000 years old before Christ. And now here we are about 2,000 years after Christ. Add those together, and the approximate age of the earth is about 6,000 years old.
Oh, hey, the audience got it right this time.
Now, we do not put an exact date
yeah.
on creation. Some people try to do that. They say Adam was made 4004 BC, October 23rd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You cannot get that close from Scripture. I'm sorry. We do know, though.
Oh, that was accurate. You cannot get that close from Scripture. Here we go.
Yeah, I'll drink for that.
Take a drink.
Also, you'll probably know this better than me, Dapper, but I mean, I don't know if there is a consensus on this or if this was just something that was put out there. But I know that the Babylonian kings lists usually worked on powers of 12, which is why they had such weird ages. And I know some people have proposed in the past that the reason that the biblical patriarchs are said to have lived so long is because they used powers of 10. And I think or powers of 5 maybe, because I think the argument was essentially like no one lived an odd number of years. Like it was always weird.
There's a weird pattern where like every single one of the ages given in the like Genesis for the various patriarchs is like they all share this odd common factor. I don't know if that in itself is enough to establish that there was a different numeral base being used by the author of Genesis than was normally in use in Hebrew.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's
I feel
certainly
like I remember it proposed.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but it's one of those things where it's like you're gonna have to have a lot more evidence to make that, because it's an odd thing to do to have to list ages in a different number base than you would use for most other things. Like people don't go around saying like, "Oh, I'm 2,006 years old." Like it's a weird thing to say, even though English can adopt a base 12 number system fairly easily, because English has words like dozen, gross, and great gross, which takes you all the way up to 12 to the third. But you know, if you're like if let's say you actually are in fact say 30, right? You could say that as 2,006 or 2.5 dozen. But no one does that. It's just weird. So
well, the only reason I'm suggesting it is because given how traditionally ancient Near Eastern Hebrews were in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Mostly with a lot of their Genesis mythos, bits and pieces of it appear to come from older texts, at least in some cases. And some people have proposed too that might have something to do with the Babylonian captivity, and it was essentially like this reclaiming of
it's certainly
Yahweh. Like a cultural thing almost, you know.
It's certainly a possibility. I just would need a lot more than the mention that something similar happens in Babylonian king lists to make me conclude that that's actually what's going on. I'm willing to entertain it, but I'm not willing to take a stand and say, yeah, I think that's the explanation.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, you know, it's like bar talk, right? I mean, I think I feel like, and I don't remember entirely, but I feel like I read something more concrete somewhere. But again, like this isn't typically my wheelhouse or anything like that. I would imagine if they were going to pull anything, like it sure is convenient that the Babylonians did use, powers of 12, and they were under Babylonian captivity during the period of time that dealt with these weirdly old patriarchs.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. I don't think that there's anything that I know of off the top of my head. That's why I was asking. But it's interesting nonetheless.
Bent Hovind comes in with, I'm 3 1/4 dozen years old. Thanks, Bent. Actually, I think base 12 is a better system than base 10 anyway, because 12 has way more factors than 10. Because 10's got what? 1, 2, and 5. Come on, let's think about the factors on 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6.
No, that's true.
Yeah, it would make arithmetic way easier if we used base 12, and that was what you were used to. But here we go. We'll keep going.
That Adam was made in the afternoon because it was just before Eve. But
that joke actually landed?
Discovered about that,
Ugh,
okay?
Gross.
So the Bible clearly teaches the earth is only a few thousand years old, but in the textbooks today, kids are learning that the earth is billions of years old.
Because it is.
Well,
okay.
Which one is right?
The textbooks.
Jesus said...
The one with the evidence from reality. I'm just taking a drink, because,
Yeah, no, I'll drink for that.
look, I've said it
Yeah,
before.
I mean, like, I realize he's teaching in a church and everything, so the tone is going to be very different, in where you're placing your authority. But the fact that there's nothing really touched on, that nothing has been touched on so far as to, okay, well, why is it that in your textbooks it says 4.5 to 4.8 billion? Why does it say that? Basically, he's just like, the Bible says this, so guess all those textbook writers are getting grants from big academia to say that it's a lot older than it actually is.
Yeah.
And
There's,
I'm
there's
wondering
all
where's
that
my
money in pure geology research. Just millions of dollars floating around. You just grab some.
exclusively to combat young Earth creationism.
Right.
Like that's the reason. Academia, academia. Here's the thing: real academia doesn't even notice young Earth creationism.
No.
That's how insignificant it is.
It's like
legitimate
flat Earth.
academia doesn't even. It's not even on the radar.
No, it's only for people for whom it's a little bit of a hobby horse. Like, we find this fun to talk about every once in a while. Like, most scientists don't give a crap about young Earth creationism because it's just so insignificant and so unimportant and so obviously ludicrous. But some of them, usually because of maybe they have some family who are young Earth creationists, or maybe they used to be young Earth creationists, or maybe they just find the whole thing fascinating. It's sort of, I really do think that young Earth creationism is essentially the same thing as flat Earth. It's a weird fringe belief that is completely insane, and the only reason anyone pays attention to it is as a little bit of a hobby.
Yeah, I think that that's relatively true. I think that flat Earth is a little bit more out there just because with flat Earth there isn't something so emotionally charged that's typically tied with it.
But there is for the flat Earthers, though.
There is for the flat Earthers, but I think, well, I guess that's true. Maybe it's just a numbers game.
Here's what I think it is. We've known the Earth is round for longer than we've known how old it is and how diversity in life occurred. That's it. That's the only difference. Is how long we've known it's stupid. We've known flat Earth is stupid for 3,000 years.
It's so true.
We've known young Earth is stupid for young Earth creationism is stupid for 300 years. An order of magnitude newer.
So I think too, and you and I have spoken about this before, but I think that really and truly a lot of young Earth creationism boils down to I don't want to be monkey.
Yeah.
And I think that it comes down that whole idea of resisting just being another animal, very specifically an ape, which I guess people, culturally think of as these silly, barbaric, and highly hedonistic animals, is that it's okay, we have to be better than that. Surely we're special. Surely this all means something.
Well, humans are special.
Yeah, we are, but so is everything else in its own way.
Right.
So it's we all have our things that we're good at. I mean, the example that I always go to is mantis shrimp see so many other colors than we do. They got 12 cones.
Mm-hmm.
They do pretty well for themselves as far as the spectrum of color.
They can punch water so hard it glows.
True. Yes, they can do that. So, everything's got their thing that they're good at. Every animal does. Every form of life has its thing that makes it special. Because all life is special. It's just special in different ways. And humans, because we're the dominant species on the planet, animal category, primate category, we tend to think that the things that make us special are the most special things.
Which
is super anthropocentric. But
it's super anthropocentric, but I feel how would it be otherwise? I feel any intelligent species would be well, we're the best because we do these things. Okay, I guess, sure, why not? Also, for $5, Sphincter of Doom says, young Earth creationism is like Ouija boards. Most people don't really pay attention to them. Some do it for fun, and a vanishingly small fraction take it too seriously. Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah, very, very true. So, I want to say something anecdotally that's kind of fun, really quick. So I know several anthropologists being in primatology, because people who are primatologists tend to specialize either in extant primates or they go the human evolution route, and both are really cool. But I know a bunch of anthropologists because of that, including my supervisor, who's an anthropologist. And of the 3 anthropologists that I know best, all 3 of them went through a phase where they were I used to go to creationist conventions and argue with them for fun and get in fights on the internet. When the younger ones say that, the older ones are nah, the internet wasn't a thing. I went to the conventions. And all 3 of them, when I, because I'm involved in this scene, a couple of times I've reached out or mentioned in casual conversation what I do, and they're listen, have fun, it's enjoyable, but eventually it's something that most scientists grow out of. That's why no one takes it seriously, because once you get educated enough to see it's either for fun, and some still are involved in it for fun, like Dr. Herman Mays certainly doesn't need to be wasting his time on creationism, but he does it for the benefit of everyone else. But it's something that people tend to grow out of eventually, and I just thought that was very that was very poignant as something to say. It's something that people tend to flirt with, and they tend to be like, "Ah, this is fun, this is enjoyable." To eventually, sometimes they leave, sometimes they don't, but ultimately, it's not something that anyone takes seriously.
Yeah.
Not anyone who has any real training.
And also, for another $5, Sphincter of Doom says, when it comes to being special, dolphins are so smart that after only a few days in captivity, they have trained humans to bring them fish. That's true.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really and truly, some of the most fit animals on the planet are the ones that humans have deemed useful. If humans think you're cute, or if humans think you're useful, your fitness goes through the roof.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Let's get a little bit more Eric in here. Because we're almost done, so we've got to get a little bit more Eric in.
And he which made them
Okay,
at
true.
the beginning made them male and female. Was Jesus
Oh, why are we
lying?
back?
I got it. Maybe he just didn't quite understand modern science. Maybe that was his deal. Or maybe he was right.
Whoa.
Maybe the Earth is only a few thousand years old.
Look, it's... I meant to say this, but I didn't. It comes back again. Okay, look. Physical reality is prior... Oh my goodness, I just noticed there's a second seam on the cloud texture. There's a seam on the left, too. You guys can't see it. I'm sorry. They couldn't find a seamless texture? What is wrong with you guys? Anyway, yeah, so physical reality is prior to any of your other beliefs about the Bible or God or anything like that. If one of your beliefs contradicts basic, bare reality, it's wrong and you need to fix it. Does that mean you have to give up believing in the Bible? No, not necessarily. If you can find a way to interpret the Bible in a way that correlates well with physical reality as we can observably test it and interact with it, great, have fun with that.
It may
Young
even
Earth
be the
creationism.
correct way of interpreting it,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
we
if-
don't know.
look,
It could
if
be the
there's-
right way of interpreting it.
If the Bible is in fact the Word of God, then the only ways that are correct to interpret the Bible are ways that correlate with physical reality.
True.
So if you just start, even if you start with the assumption the Bible is the Word of God, which I don't think is a great starting assumption, I don't think it's properly basic, but that's a whole other can of worms of philosophy that I'm not going to get into. Let's just say you start with that. You can use reality as a way to cut out the interpretations that have to be wrong. Young Earth creationism is one of them. It has to be wrong, or the Bible is wrong. So
Yep.
And-
And that truly is an unfortunate thing. And when I say unfortunate, I'm about to kind of get into that really quickly. But Ken Ham frequently does this spiel where he's like, so many people are leaving the church. He's Australian, so he does it in an Australian accent. He's like, so many people are leaving the church. He's like, they're doing it because they're confronted with evolution, they're confronted with the age of the earth, and then they leave the faith instead. And Ken has taken that interaction and taken it in the totally wrong direction. He's taken off sprinting in the only direction that could leave more people leaving the church than there were before.
Yup.
Because when faced with the reality versus raw faith, most people tend to be like, okay, well, I'm going to know with what I can empirically show to be true. And there's nothing wrong with that, which is why the churches that are like, look, we're going to take a more liberal approach, at least compared to what has previously been, grinded into your head, that the basic facts of reality cannot mesh with, the interpretation that we're choosing to be correct for the Bible. I mean, they're the ones responsible for this mass exodus from the church, is the ones who are so rigid, the ones who are chill with it. I mean, most Christians I know, in fact, at least personally, the vast, vast, vast majority of Christians I know are totally chill with evolution in the age of the earth.
I mean, that's the vast
and
majority of
we
Christians
get along
worldwide.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get along just fine with that. And
Yeah.
God, there have been some incredible scientists who are Christians in the recent age. That's great. There's no problem. I have me as a person, I have no problems with that. Now, philosophically, I'm going to have some questions, at least from where I'm coming from, because I have my own reasons for thinking the things that I think. But with regard to doing good science, as long as you're not like, a young Earth creationist, typically you're going to be able to do pretty good science being religious.
Actually, I'm going to say even young Earth creationists can do good science in some fields. just not most
that's fair enough.
fields.
That's fair enough. No, you're right. In fact, if memory serves, there have been, I think Sanford did the gene gun. That was a net good.
Mm-hmm.
I believe one of the other creationists.
He did that before being a creationist, though.
Okay, well, there
So
you go.
that's one of the things. I actually just recently watched an interview with Sanford, and he laid out the order of how things like that happened. He did all of his important work before becoming a creationist. Since becoming a creationist, he hasn't contributed pretty much anything of note. I mean, genetic entropy is just laughably bad, and that's about all we've got from him since he became a creationist. It basically ended his career when he started publishing creationist nonsense.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and I like to give this little spiel on genetic entropy because the Brain Trust over at Standing for Truth have been, trying to goad me into a response on this kind of thing, and I'm sure they've been doing the same with you, Dapper, and with Dan. But the whole idea is they're like, they're too afraid to talk about genetic entropy. No, if you have to change the definition for something just to make it work, and that definition is a working definition that creates viable predictions and has been doing so for over 150 years, your
no discussion.
hypothesis is garbage.
Yeah, there's just nothing to talk about.
In there.
Yeah,
but that's the long and short of it.
Mm-hmm. Let's get a little bit more Eric in, because I think we're coming up on the time where we're going to end. So.
Okay, I'm good to go. I'm feeling good.
Okay.
Or billions of years old. The Bible says, in the beginning is when God created the heavens and the earth. Thou, Lord, in Hebrews, in the beginning laid the foundations of the earth. He made it that way in the beginning.
Just real quick, Eric Hovind said thou, and then he said in Hebrew. No, Hebrew does not have the word thou as the second person singular. Just stop it, Eric.
Now, when was the beginning? I love looking at scripture. I think that's all I need, but some people need the science to back up that the beginning was not billions of years ago, despite what they teach in the textbooks, okay? Textbooks.
Yeah, some people need evidence to believe things that the Bible otherwise says. Crazy, right? Like, the thing is, the Bible doesn't get to be evidence for itself. Now, if you can independently show the Bible is of some significance, then you can use it as evidence for its claims. You can't start with the Bible and say, oh, it said it. That's not how this works, but we'll keep going.
Certainly not in a vacuum. Like there, I actually listened to, I think it was actually a Apologia video earlier today, but one of the kind of Christian individuals in it was like, listen, why can't the Bible be used as support for itself? It's a historical document. And it's like, yeah, sometimes it's a reliable historical document, and sometimes it's not because it's 66 different pieces. And sometimes those 66 pieces are themselves in several different pieces. So you can't assess it as a single work.
No, you can't. For instance, there's, especially some of the later Old Testament history books, actually have proven to be reasonably accurate in terms of like naming like locations and places and people and even some events. Like we have a really good reason to think the Babylonian captivity is more or less as it's described in the Bible. But each book is its own separate thing. Like if we found out that, say, the Book of Ruth were 100% completely accurate about everything. Boaz was a totally real dude. Ruth was a totally real lady. She slept totally at his feet, and feet is totally not a euphemism at all. Even though it was a euphemism, whatever. Like, all of that, 100% accurate. That doesn't mean a single thing for how accurate Chronicles is.
Yep, 100%.
It doesn't affect Chronicles' accuracy in the least. And the fact that they're both on a single list of books also doesn't help. Each and every one of those works has to be taken as a separate work, because they are separate works. But
yeah, well, and there's a game of double standards that tends to be at play when you got an emotional investment. It's rules for thee, not for me. So the application of all the 66 books of the Bible being assessed as a single work is one thing, but doing the same for the Quran is another entirely to these folks.
Well, at least the Quran probably has a single author.
Yeah,
we can at least say that that's most likely the case for the Quran. I have not heard too much serious scholarship claiming that the Quran has more than one author. There are some good arguments to say that some aspects of it were borrowed by that author from diverse areas. Like there are some things that look like they probably got borrowed from pre-Quranic Arabic poetry. Some things that got borrowed from sort of late Christian manuscripts. Some things that just got lifted straight from various, what's now considered the Bible. So there is that kind of diversity in it, but at least it does have a single author. And you could reasonably, since it claims to be the direct words of God from a single author through a particular single individual prophet, you actually have a reasonable idea that you could sort of falsify or confirm the whole Quran at once. Because it really is a much more coherently single work, but it's still not a single thing. Like, each surah is its own separate surah that stands alone. And in fact, even some of the surahs contain within themselves sections that have nothing to do with what else is in there. Actually, it's a very disjointed book. It's actually kind of hard to read, honestly.
Cohesiveness is something that is, like, literarily important. Literarily, would that be the correct way of putting it?
Say that again?
Because I don't know if you would say literally. With regard to literature, cohesiveness is something that is important when determining whether there were one or multiple authors.
That's true. Although the thing is, it's the idea that the Quran is one author is not so much based on each different chapter being coherent with each other. It's each individual chapter tends to be reasonably well constructed as a sermon. Although that's not always the case. Like, go read the second chapter of the Quran. It's like half of the book, and it's just rambles about everything. The Quran actually gets better if you read it in reverse order.
That's really interesting. So for me, I stand the Book of Enoch. I think the Book of Enoch is cool and based with all the giant talk and the Nephilim talk, and it's like, I'm sad that the Council of Nicaea, or whoever it was, because apparently it's not just the Council of Nicaea, whoever it was that decided that the Book of Enoch was apocryphal, I am sad that they weren't like, hey, giants are really cool, let's keep this shit in there.
Erika, it wasn't the Council of Nicaea at all. Actually, no Christian council ever took up the topic of the Old Testament canon.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit tipsy, and also I don't know this stuff, so inform me and educate both me and the chat.
All right, so we're going to go quickly into some history of the Christian biblical canon, and then we're going to get out of here because we're almost at 2 hours, and I don't want to go too much over. So,
fill us in.
Christian canon was not decided at the Council of Nicaea or at any other church council. The Christian authors never really took up the question of the Old Testament canon because up until basically the Reformation, essentially every Christian took the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of the Old Testament that was created before the time of Jesus, as just the canon of the Old Testament. And so it included all the Old Testament books you'll find in, say, Erika Hovind's Bible, but it also included things like 1st and 2nd Maccabees, the longer version of the book of Daniel, and things like that. So that was never actually even taken up by Christians really until the Reformation. There was some debate among the fans of, Saint Jerome, who translated the Vulgate. Jerome was a little iffy on those quote-unquote apocryphal books, but because the Book of Enoch wasn't even in the Septuagint, it was never even considered by any major Christian group as a likely addition, with the exception of some churches in Ethiopia, where it is still part of the Christian canon in Ethiopian churches. Now, when it comes to the New Testament, there was some debate, although the 4 Gospels were settled on very early, and then some other books were sort of in and out occasionally, including the Book of Revelation, which ended up ending in the canon of the New Testament. But also there were some other works that you can find in the Apostolic Fathers, like the Shepherd of Hermas, which was very popular early on in Christian history, and was often considered part of Scripture, but eventually it just ended up not being in there. And then the books that we hear about being quote-unquote excluded, like the Gospel of Thomas or the Gospel of Mary, were never really even considered because they were written long after the sections of the Bible that we would have slotted them into, like the Gospels, had already been established by consensus, but not really with a council either. And so the first time we get the full sort of canon of the New Testament written out in full, and from there on we don't really see any deviation, is a Paschal letter. So this is a letter written on Easter by the Roman Pope in, I think it was the 6th century, but I'll have to double check on that. So this is actually after the Council of Nicaea, and it had nothing to do with any council. It was just sort of a thing that a few churches had a slightly different New Testament canon, but they were slowly settling onto the same one. And by that time, we actually have, at this point, pretty much everyone is on board with the New Testament canon as it stands today. And then during the Reformation, Martin Luther was not a big fan of the so-called apocryphal books, nor was he that big a fan of Revelation. He was in favor of booting all of them. But also, because of that, people reading Bibles that were being printed with the newly invented printing presses became less and less likely to refer to the so-called apocryphal books. And so printers just kind of stopped printing them. It saved money. And there you go. That's why we're now down to 66 books in most Protestant Bibles, but more in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, and even more in Ethiopian Orthodox Bibles.
Well, that was very elucidating for me.
Yeah. It's people get the history of the canon of the Bible badly wrong, and it's one of those, I like to call it like an atheist myth. Like a lot of atheists like think that the Council of Nicaea had something to do with this, and it just had nothing to do with it. The Council of Nicaea took up two kinds of topics. One was who's Jesus in terms of theology, and that was the main purpose. And then they took up a few like minor things like what rules should we set aside for married versus unmarried priests? When should people celebrate Easter? Whether or not transferring was a sufficient discipline for certain offenses by clergymen, or whether or not they should be excommunicated or even exiled, some stuff like that. So yeah, the Council of Nicaea did not talk about the canon. But I think we're going to close up. Erika, do you have anything you want to plug real quick?
Nothing really. I have a new episode of the 7 Myths coming up on the 11th. That should be fun. There's a lot of dunking on Genesis apologetics, and I really hate Genesis apologetics. I think Dan Biddle is like deceptive. Yeah, he's deceptive and ignorant, but he also isn't even deceptive and ignorant in an original way. Like he just steals the talking points of other creationists
and their animations.
And then, yeah, that's it. That's what I was going to say. He also just steals their animations. So very much hate Dan Biddle. Lots of dunking on him in the upcoming video, and I'm hoping to get another Library of Errors out here soon. And I've got a neat Science in Motion for next week where we discuss the paper that came out about hunter-gatherers in North and South America. So it should be cool.
All right. Well, so actually, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, I am also releasing a video about Genesis apologetics. So
yes, love dunking on them.
Genesis apologetics, they really are just the worst.
They're the worst. They're the worst.
They just are. This Thursday, so 2 days from now, Phase 3 of the Speculative Evolution Project is going to come out. I'm releasing it, if you will. So as of this Thursday, after that video is released, I will be again accepting new submissions for the Speculative Evolution Project. That means you too, Erika. You may, if you want to, may submit new creatures.
Listen, I don't know that I can undergo the emotional turmoil of my first species, my first clade, going extinct. So
look, you submitted 3 and only 1 went extinct.
Hey, which of my guys made it?
The proboscis methods and the I can't remember what they're called, but the green guys that that they wake up and go hunting at night.
Wait, my little walkers made it? I love those guys.
Yeah, they both made it.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I need to evolve them. I'm excited. I'll do some doodles of them later.
Awesome. There you go. So that's coming on Thursday. By the way, if you want to make a submission, there is a submission template. I do require the submissions follow the template because it'll make it easier for me in actually adding them. Because one of the big problems I had was how to figure out how to get the submissions into a format where they all matched and they could all be uploaded to the World Anvil in a way that was coherent and made sense for all of them. And so I'm taking that burden off of myself and putting it on you guys. Sorry. I'm not actually that sorry. It's not that big of a deal. It's really an easy template to follow. It'll be linked in the description of that video. You just go click on it and you just follow it. I don't know if I have something this Saturday. We'll see. But then Tuesday will be the next Kent with Bent, and Bent will be appearing in a pink tutu. Now, he claims he's going to wear other stuff, too, which I think is a little bit deceptive, that we said he would appear in a pink tutu, and I was also going to wear, like, a shirt and maybe pants or something, whatever, I don't know. You know. But that was for reaching my my $200 super chat, or $200 of super chats in a previous stream. That was the goal to get Bent to appear in a pink tutu, so we hit it. Which means...
For the record, I've been present for both tutu events.
Oh, that's right, you have!
I like to think that I'm in part a good luck charm.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on more when I need money. which I guess is always.
Yeah.
So you should just always be on, is what I'm saying.
Hey, come on. I'm especially if I'm drinking, I do enjoy having these types of conversations.
All right. So, Ben Hovind said that no final decision has been made. I think he means about what else he's wearing, but he did receive the tutu today. Awesome. Yeah, he bought a tutu. So I just want to say thank you everyone for showing up. I hope I can see you in a couple days for the Phase 3 reveal. We're gonna look at the new map, talk about the mass extinction that occurred. There's gonna be some heartfelt looks at the organisms that did not make it, including, unfortunately, the infernal gnathed. But then we are going to, we're gonna carry on and new submissions and all that. So thank you very much, everyone. I will see you all Thursday, hopefully. Bye.